Welcome to another Media Guide program opening. This is, I think, number 41, getting close to 50. This is the 1983 Fiesta Bowl between Arizona State and Oklahoma. This is the game that Marcus Dupree ran wild in his final game of his freshman year and would wind up being blamed by Barry Switzer for losing the game because he was, quote, out of shape and wore down. Going to have to hold this a bit awkwardly because it's one of those hard spines that make it difficult rather than staples. There's the new Dodge, boxy as always. I'm not sure sometimes which kind I prefer. A staple will get rusty after a while, as you've seen in previous videos of older programs, but the binded glue by a glue type holder doesn't always work as well either. It seems like they tend to break apart quicker. This was the previous Fiesta Bowls up to that point. If you'll notice, a lot of them involve Arizona State and Arizona, which makes sense since the Fiesta Bowl's in Arizona. But back then, the Fiesta Bowl automatically gave one of their bowl bids to the then WAC conference champion, which Arizona State and Arizona was in until 1978. There's a little preview, and there's, I think that's Stanley Wilson, who would play for the Cincinnati Bengals. And right on the other side, there you go, guard Steve, Dr. Death Williams of pro wrestling fame. Daryl Clack, who would spend a few years with the Dallas Cowboys. Passing offenses. I have a little bit of a glare here because of how we had to. Let's see if this works a little better now. Let's see if we can, if that helps any. My apologies if you wind up seeing my foot. Passing defenses. John Blake, who would wind up being an Oklahoma head coach down the road. And Mike Richardson, who would be part of that famous 1985 Chicago Bear defense. Special teams, bring around the Chevette. Oh, yeah, okay, sure. Next, the Cimarron Cadillac, 1983. Miss Fiesta Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl Queen, Julianne Valinari. You know, we've yet to really see anybody in the various bowl game programs that have turned out to be famous, unless I'm just simply forgetting them. New Atari Real Sports. Now look at those graphics, folks. That's what we played back in the 80s. Of course, I played in television. Didn't play Atari so much. Fiesta Bowl color. Coors Light Silver Bullet. The NBC team covering the Fiesta Bowl. Len Dawson and Charlie Tunes. A very good and underrated broadcasting team as well. They used to do NFL games for NBC because at that time, only a handful of bowl games was all NBC had for college football. This was, I guess, the previous game between Penn State and USC. A little bit about the home team, Arizona State, official signals. Zales, they're still open, believe it or not. There's a store from the product from the 80s that's still doing quite well for itself. Arizona State entered this game with a record of 9-2. Scorecard for the game. American Craftsman. Jackie Stewart. Where's my buddy Battlin' Bob when I need him to do the Jackie Stewart impersonation? My good buddy Fred does the same impersonation. I should get them together. It'd be like dueling Jackies. If geese were invented today, they would be wearing Thin Slate thermal installation from 3M. 3M was always quite the innovator in those type of products, although I don't really remember that one. Hormel chili, well, you can still get that at the grocery store. Darrell Rogers, who would become the head coach eventually of the Detroit Lions. fall into the gap. More Darryl Rogers. Always fun looking at the assistant coaches, see if any of these guys went up anywhere. Willie Shaw would be an NFL assistant coach for years. And there's Al Luganbill, who would coach in the XFL, and I think San Diego State head coach. John McEnroe, shilling a shaver. Say that fast 3 times. Arizona State Athletic Department. One of the guys of these I recognize is Herman Frazier, who was a track star and Olympian in 1976. These pictures of more of the Sun Devils. Let's see who we have here. Ron Brown, who would spend some time with the Rams, I believe. Daryl Clack, as I mentioned, with Dallas. David Fulcher, who was a great safety for the Bengals, but back then a wide receiver for Arizona State. Jim Jeffcoat, who would be the first-round pick of the Cowboys after this game. Vernon Maxwell would be the first pick of the second round by the then Baltimore Colts after this game, in what would be the last Baltimore draft. Mike Richardson, as we mentioned earlier. Dan Saliamu would have a long career with the Kansas City Chiefs as a run-stuffing nose tackle. Paul Moyer would be a safety for the Seattle Seahawks. Scott Stephen would wind up being a linebacker for the Green Bay Packers. I think Jeff Van Rapphorst had a short career in the league as like a third stringer. And then there's kicker Luis Zendejas, who kicked for several teams and later would be the key person around the Buddy Ryan bounty gate, where Dallas accused Buddy Ryan of the Philadelphia Eagles of putting bounties on Cowboy players in an effort to, quote, get Luis Zendejas, who had previously kicked for the Eagles. Nothing actually ever came of that, but it sure did pump up the publicity for that game. Some guy jumping in the air for Brute. A very wrinkled guy with looking down under for suits. It's a picture of Vernon Maxwell in their game against Arizona. We've got to pick this up here if we're going to make this into a 15-minute video. GMC, we saw Arizona's roster, Oklahoma's roster. We'll get to the Sooners as quickly as we can because that's the Oklahoma Athletic Department. Nobody there that jumps out. Coach Barry Switzer, who I always think gets a bad break. I mean, he was a great college coach, and people give him credit for that. But everybody just assumes that he did win a Super Bowl. Now, granted, it was with Jimmy Johnson's talent, but it still takes a lot to win a Super Bowl just doing it, period. Up top is Steve Sewell, who would spend some years with the Denver Broncos. And Kevin Murphy right there, who would play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some of these Sooners quickly. I think Thomas Benson played in the league for someone. There's John Blake, who would be the Oklahoma head coach. Sonny Brown, who would wind up being a defensive back for those national champion Oklahoma teams. Scott Case and Tony Casillas, both future Atlanta Falcons. Casillas also with Dallas. Rick Bryan was a top first-round draft pick by the Falcons. There's Marcus Dupree. I think Dwight Dreen was around the NFL for a while. The Ledbetter brothers. There's Kevin Murphy. We did mention he played with Tampa Bay. I think Rod Pegues was a running back that wound up getting a little bit of NFL time. Steve Sewell, as we mentioned earlier. Jackie Shipp, who would be the first round pick of the Dolphins. Spencer Tillman, who would play for the Oilers and can still be seen on announcing college football games. And Steve Dr. Death Williams, as mentioned earlier. And then there's Stanley Wilson, who would play for the Bengals. The magic of Marcus Dupree running the ball. He was a really pretty runner. If you're into that, look him up on YouTube. You can see some really fun videos to watch. There's the Oklahoma season in review. Basically the same. Mr. and Mrs. T, Bloody Mary mix. Insert your grunt here from Mr. T fame. Go with a winner, Olympian Magazine. There's another one of those VCRs. We can never stop at those. And still a top loader. As I mentioned previously, I always like the top loaders. Jim Beam. This talks about sports in Arizona. Gatorade, the Fiesta Bowl committee. This is a sizable program. I'm really glad that we dedicated this just one to this. Now we're starting to flip the other way. The Fiesta Bowl growth from the original game. Festival of Events. Nitpickers, isn't that clever? Quality is job one. Kentucky Tavern Whiskey. Another one of those beautiful Buicks of the time. Old style beer. Remember that faintly. French's Mustard, that's still around. The Fiesta Bowl record book, and there we go. There's an ad for the upcoming Arizona Wranglers of the United States Football League. So, your first mention of the USFL in a program. These are the outstanding MVPs of the various Fiesta Bowls. Gary Huff, who would play with the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Junior Ayu would have a long career in the Canadian Football League and in the USFL. James Owens had some time with Tampa. Woody Green with Kansas City. John Jefferson with the Chargers and Packers. Larry Gordon, the Dolphin. Mike Haynes, a Hall of Famer with the New England Patriots. Thomas Lott, who wound up being converted to a running back special teamer. Kurt Warner, great running back for Seattle. Philip Doak spent some time with the Bills. Matt Millen, who you all know as loudmouth announcer and know-it-all and failed executive. There's Kurt Warner again, and Leo Wisniewski, who was a Los Angeles Raider. And the Fiesta Bowl 10-year team. I guess it's kind of like an all-star team of everyone that ever played in the Fiesta Bowl. Okay. A very sizable program, so well worth the, I didn't catch what it said. There's Arizona State's Sun Devil Stadium, which got to host the game, and then there's Magic Johnson being hawked a Buick Skyhawk. And then there's whiskey into a glass high heel. This program cost how much? $3. Pretty sizable. Very nice for 1983. Very well done. So we'll wrap this up here. We're running real close on time. Don't forget to check out the blog at thoughtsofrs.blogspot.com. And please subscribe here if you so desire. Would be appreciated. And we will see you next time.